And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 113. Going to talk some fantasy baseball and some of these new players getting some chances with some teams that are pretty much out of the races. But in order to do so, joined by a special guest, you can find him at Friends with Fantasy Benefits, Head Heart Radio, our sports. I'm sorry, I'm butchering this. And then on Twitter at RTH222, Randy Haines. How we doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Long time, first time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, it's Head Heart Sports and Friends with Fantasy Benefits. Before we get going there, what do you have going on with those guys these days?
Yeah, with Friends with Fantasy Benefits, I do a podcast. We usually try to get one out once a week. Things have been kind of busy over the last month or so with vacations, All-Star break, with Mike the Roto Cop and Colin Weatherwax. We usually do at least try to do once a week. You know, we were doing some fab for a while. We did a lot of the TGFBI league breakdowns at the start of the season. Just, same thing, see whatever comes up. We try to put together like a trade deadline show here recently. So we've got some guests. Mike is very good at networking. He gets us some pretty fun and cool guests every once in a while. So that's been fun to do. Head and Heart Sports is just something I do with some real good friends of mine. Kind of whenever something strikes us, we'll post something up there. It was something we've been doing for a while there. So, but excited to be on with you and ready to talk some baseball.
Awesome. Yeah, Mike's a good dude. I know I haven't interacted with Colin a ton. I know we follow each other and need to have him on the show eventually. But it's a good little group you got there doing the podcast. Before we get into the players, I know most of you guys were doing very well in the TGFBI, but I can't remember exactly. I'm doing so bad I kind of stopped looking at the overall standings. So how are you hanging in there on the TGFBI right now?
I'm hanging by a thread. I got off to a pretty good start, and then things started to die off. I don't know what I'm up to date this second as. There's been some games going on right now, but I've been bouncing back and forth between like 5th and 8th in my league, respectively. Again, I stopped once I fell out of the top 2 or 3 in my league. There's no point in checking the overall. I've lit my fab on fire with a couple of guys here lately, with like Robert Gisselman and all. So that's the big thing for me is going to be saves and trying to stay healthy. Finally, maybe, once Strasburg gets back, I can maybe be healthy again. But it's been a really fun experience. I've enjoyed it. Made some friends out of it. So it's been really cool. I hope they keep it going.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's been a blast. It hasn't gone ideally. There's just so many darn injuries. It's been unbelievable. Yeah. But
it's made for some fun. I'm sorry. I would say it's made for some fun Fab Sundays on Twitter with some interaction and all. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts. It's like seeing what players go for in each league because it's been bananas, like absolutely crazy. I remember I can't remember who it was now. I got him a couple weeks ago for like $30, and I was the only one to bid in my league, and he goes for like $300 in another league, and it was crazy. So yeah,
that's been happening a lot.
Always a good time, and it varies this time of year based on fab available and whatnot. But hey, maybe this weekend will be fun with some of these guys we talk about. Let's kick it off. Tyler Glasnow. He's a very, very talented young pitcher. We've known it for a long time with the Pirates. He could just never get it going. He comes over in the Tommy Pham deal, and so far they already said they're going to start him out as one of their openers, but they want to extend him, and they showed that. He went 3 innings in his first start, 4 innings yesterday. He's gone from 48 to 61 pitches. By end of the next week, he might be a full-fledged let's just let him go guy. He's looked outstanding. You said you watched a lot of that game yesterday. What are you seeing with Glasnow?
Yeah, he looks really good. Of course, it doesn't take a lot to light up my Orioles like he did last night. But again, he still had 13 swings and misses, just in those 4 innings last night. He's only walked one guy, which has been the big thing in his first 2 appearances. I mean, he was somebody with Pittsburgh that, it might have been better off for whoever was catching to set up outside the zone on purpose because he's not going to hit his spot, so maybe he'd luck in and get one over the plate and get a couple of strikes because that was the big thing with him was control. Maybe it was a change of scenery or maybe, Tampa's done very well with developing pitching over the last few years. They can't keep him healthy, unfortunately, but the guys that have pitched, they've gotten a lot of profit out of them. So he's very interesting going forward, and they're hopefully us as fantasy owners, we want to get as many quality innings out of him as we can. If he's going to keep being an opener, that eliminates any chance he has as a win or a quality start, whichever format you play in. It definitely hurts his value right now in those formats. But if he can pitch well throughout the rest of the season, I think Tampa will eventually have enough arms where they can go to a normal rotation. Honey will eventually get healthy. DeLeon will eventually get healthy. Glasnow, somebody that could be in that yeah, so he's definitely very interesting. Again, for me, his upside's limited a little bit the rest of the season because he's, as long as he's going to be opening, he's not going to be getting wins, no chance at a quality start, so that hurts a little bit. But it's definitely good to see because he's somebody that was a top pitching prospect there for several years, and you want to see these guys succeed. There can never be too many good pitchers. So,
no, I agree, and it's fun. On my other baseball show, I've been really, really excited about what the Rays have been doing, and it's never pretty when you have to be in the same division as the Red Sox and the Yankees ever. And they're finding ways to compete in the future with these moves they've made. In Glasnow, you can pair them with Snell and then Honeywell and stuff. It could be a fun little rotation they have there. But we're talking this year now, and we're going to assume they're going to keep sending him out there to get the length in the games and be that guy. Is this someone you're really attacking hard this week in Fab if you have the money, or are you still kind of hesitant?
Not attacking hard, but I definitely want to try to grab him if I can. Because again, if they're eventually going to let him, if they're going to keep upping his pitch count every start, he could get to that point where he's a full-fledged starter and we're not even thinking twice. But because it's Tampa, and because let's face it, they've had a lot of success with the way they've been doing things with their bullpen and their rotation and all. So if they realize that he's somebody that can only go 2 times through the order, or as long as they're keeping him under 75 pitches, they're getting really good quality innings out of him, they might keep it that way for the rest of the season. I definitely would try to get a piece, especially if I'm desperate for pitching, but my expectations are tempered, unfortunately, until I see him even pitch into like the 6th inning. I think if you're in a league that's a little more shallow and you see him even start to pitch in the 5th and 6th inning, grab him immediately, because that means they are trying to increase his workload as each start goes by.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that being an interesting one there. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on, and could help you the last month and a half, 2 months of the season. Let's talk about another Tampa Bay Ray, and he's not really lighting the world on fire, but pedigree-wise, we know Willy Adames has been really, really good in the minors. Some say he should have been playing last year, but they finally got rid of Echeverria now, and they're giving him the role going forward. Is this a guy you might be interested in for a little power, some maybe speed out of him, or are you just going to say, you know what, it's great, we'll worry about you next year?
Yeah, I mean, in a 15-team, definitely. I scooped him up in TGFBI this past Fab period for $1. It was a nice. I was kind of happy about it with Echeverria getting cut. That was the big thing. He's going to have the playing time every day. He's not going to be bouncing back and forth between second and short either. They're going to let him play every day at one spot. And yeah, his strikeouts are up, this year compared to what he was doing in the minors. But that could just be an adjustment period where we're seeing some. He had the big hit last night for them, so that maybe that's starting to turn around. And in September, there's going to be some. They're going to have the Yankees and the Red Sox obviously on the schedule, but they're going to have some dogs on the schedule too. My Orioles aren't playing for anything. Toronto's starting to throw out some guys there that they started Tyler Clippard in a game last week, so there could be some pitchers for Adames to pick on down the stretch. So he, definitely in 15-team, I think he needs to be on the radar.
That's a great point you just made. There is. Come September, it's going to get really interesting for some of these guys. You're going to see some of these young players, like hitters we talk about, get a ton of playing time, and they're going to be facing basically AAA pitchers. So it'll make things really, really interesting out there, and might pad some stats and be deceiving for next year, but we don't care about that at the moment.
Yeah, the Byron Bucks in effect.
Yes. Oh, God. Let's not talk about him anymore. Tommy Pham comes over to Tampa Bay. Everyone's excited about it, kind of like what the heck just happened. But he comes over, gets hit. He's on the DL with a broken foot or fractured foot. He's going to be out for a little while. They bring Austin Meadows back up, who came over in the Glasnow deal for Archer. He's going to get everyday time. He's intriguing. Let's start with Glasnow first. Is he a guy that gets your attention? Because it's still a crowded outfield with Mallex Smith and Kiermaier, and maybe platooning with Meadows in one of the corner outfield spots.
Yeah, I mean, and Bowers is in there as well. They've got some options. And Tampa, they love to platoon anyway, even when they are at full strength. Meadows came up, like a bat out of hell when I think it was when Marte went down was when he first came up with the Pirates, and things started to cool off a little bit. Maybe the league was starting to figure him out. He's got a little bit of that prospect fatigue going, but he's definitely interesting, especially if he's going to get everyday playing time. Pham, it was a nice pickup to see. And the good news was in the last couple of days is it's not a season ender, which when I first saw it, anytime you hear a foot fracture, that can be, that could have eeasily ended a season. So it's nice, for his owners that he is going to get some playing time before the season's over. Mallex Smith's actually been pretty interesting. He's up there. He's up to 23 steals, and his WRC plus is up to 121. He's drawn some walks. He's not he's not just, barely slapping the ball through the infield. He's doing some things. He's now getting moved to the leadoff spot pretty much full time, it appears, over the last couple of weeks. So that's nice to see. Tampa's outfield is really nice, and I really like Jake Bauers. He's somebody I went big in for Pham and TGFBI when he was called up, and the power hasn't quite been there, but he didn't have the greatest power profile coming up anyway. But I thought maybe his power would play up with the, with the juice ball and all. So he's been a nice asset for Tampa as well. Their outfield looks really good for the future, for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, it just goes with the pitching comment I made earlier. They're making some good strides there. Bauers is interesting because the averages there, he's walking a ton. He's stealing bases for kind of a somewhat bigger guy. That might not last farther in his career, but for now, we don't care. But that's very interesting. I love the Mallex Smith idea because remember when everybody ran to the wire to go pick him up earlier this year when, they traded Steven Souza. It's Mallex Smith's turn. Oh, that didn't work. Kevin Kiermaier goes down. Okay, it's Mallex Smith's turn. It really never panned out. Well, now Mallex Smith's running with, like you said, he's leading off. He has 5 steals in the month of August already in 6 games. He's playing really, really well. I think if you're looking for steals in the Roto League, this is a must-add guy if he's still available for you. There's going to be a handful more. That's kind of one of the trends I noticed, not on purpose when I started making our outline. There's a lot of speed guys we're going to get to talk about today. But Mallex Smith is very interesting. I think he should be sniped up in pretty much everywhere you have him. Because if he continues to play well, even when Pham comes back, I think he'll get some pretty regular playing time because Meadows will go back down. They already said they want him to get every day at bats the most they can. So I think that's going to be very, very interesting with Mallex Smith. And maybe he'll become that guy that people thought he could be at one point in time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, with some of the speed guys, he's shown that he's not going to be the Billy Hamilton, hitting 220 and providing just speed and killing you in that aspect. So it's nice to see that he can be not a 5 category producer, but he's not going to be a 0 in power, and he's going to be able to get on base enough to score runs and give himself some more opportunities to steal.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's talk about another speed guy, Adalberto Mondesi. This is a hyped prospect in the Royals system. He really never panned out when he had a short try earlier this year. He's back up. He's getting every day at bats now because they're in their full rebuild. They're just saying, screw it, we're going with it. He's got 12 steals on the year, 4 in the month of August. Dead on speed guy. He's actually, his OBP is decent, not great, but he's making it happen. And the downside, they're hitting him towards the bottom of the batting order. What's your thoughts on Mondesi? Because, middle infield, sometimes hard to find.
Yeah, I mean, if you need speed, you need speed, but he's not – I mean, you don't want to write off a guy too early, but between this and the couple other times that he's gotten an opportunity to play, he doesn't appear to be a very good hitter. His walk rate on the season is less than 2%, which is in some – that's on some D. Gordon stuff right there. And his WRC plus is at 76, and it's just not – like you mentioned, hitting at the bottom of the order of a bad order, so it's not like there's going to be any run scored opportunity or any RBI opportunities. It's just purely – a steal play. Mallex Smith has proved that he's not really, built in that Billy Hamilton class. And Mondesi might be somebody that we're looking at where he is in that Billy Hamilton class, where it's just a steal play. He's going to be a pain in the ass to own. And you just got to, hold your nose and take the steals.
No, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Let's talk Nick Williams of the Philadelphia Phillies, a guy that's always seemed to be, like a 250-ish hitter, tons of pop, especially versus right-handed pitching. But he was almost strictly in a platoon. Now you go back, you look at game logs, and since the month of July, let's go back that far, he's pretty much starting, I'd say, almost every game. There's only a few games he's not starting. He started every game in the month of August, where he's white hot in the month of August when it comes to at least, getting on base, hitting some homers. Overall in the season, he has 16 home runs, and that's not an everyday playing time, like I said, until recently. This could be a guy that could really help you down the stretch run and maybe even pay attention to next year. What's your thoughts on Nick Williams?
Yeah, I've scooped him up in a couple of spots where he was dropped. Like you said, there was a platoon situation there with the Altera early in the season, but his walk rate's up 2% this year. Fly ball rate is up, kind of going with that a little, maybe a little bit of that launch angle revolution. And it's a really good lineup compared to what it's been the last couple of years when they were rebuilding, so you're going to get your counting stats. The lineup's going to keep turning over. And if Williams is out there in your league, he's somebody that I'd go right out and grab in anything, 12 or bigger. He should be owned, and he's going to be interesting going into next draft season because he's still young enough that he can improve. I don't know what the Phillies are going to do this offseason. You hate to see maybe he'd be a trade chip if they wanted to go get another pitcher, but that could also, depending where he ends up, could give you a nice park boost. But Williams is somebody I'm excited about for the rest of 2018 and going forward.
Yeah, I've always been like a fan of his, but it's always been so hard to commit. Like you said, that platoon with Altair, like playing DFS every day. I love those two guys because it gets the lefty, you use him, versus the righty, you use him. They're always cheap. It's a beautiful thing. But every day at bats, if he can show he can hit lefties in that ballpark, like you said, in that lineup, it's young. They're going to be competitive here for a little while. It's going to be very interesting. There is a scare there going forward in the future, not so much this season, like you said. He could be dealt because they have so much depth in the minors, especially in the outfield position. This could be an easy move that could, some team could see this run down the stretch here and boom, off he goes. So,
well, and their owner has come out and he wants to go after Machado and Harper. So, I mean, I don't think they'd be too much in the running for Harper, but money talks. If Harper or somebody big like that ends up there, he probably would end up either getting moved or hopefully he wouldn't be a fourth outfielder for anybody that's got some keeper dynasty shares. But he's definitely, as of right now, got a really bright future.
What's going to be scary about the Phillies is they got so much money and so much youth. Yeah. They might go get Machado and then wait a year and get Trout because they want to bring Trout home, and that would just be.
Oh, Trout's a Philly guy. Yeah, that would be
devastation. I'd like it because the Dodgers wouldn't be so good anymore because there'd be a team that could just stomp them down to the ground. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, bring some of the NL power over to the East.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, why don't you guys send some of the AL this way then? No,
yeah, that's true.
Ben Zobrist. It's not a flashy name by any means. People think platoon guy, nothing special. He had a big hit in the World Series, but it's Ben Zobrist. Nothing crazy, except now he's been playing good. They've been hitting him second a lot in the order, at least for the last week or so, and he's been pretty darn productive. Not showing the home run power, but you don't expect that. But extra base hits, scoring runs. This could be a guy, especially with his multi-positional eligibility, that could help out. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, you kind of nailed it there. Not the sexiest name, but he's got as many walks as strikeouts so far in the season. So in an OBP league, he's a definite plus. You got the multi-position eligibility, and that's the thing with him is he's going to be a compiler because he doesn't really run anymore. Not a big power guy as much as he was in his younger days in Tampa. But if he's going to be hitting at the top of that lineup's still good, even though they're missing Bryant. That's a nice pickup in a deeper league. If you're in a daily moves league where you can move them around, or daily lineup league and you can move them around, between the outfield and middle, it's a nice pickup. Again, not the sexiest guy, probably not going to win your league, but he could be a definite fill in with some of the injuries that are out there right now.
All right, let's talk about a couple Cincinnati Reds players. We'll start with Phillip Ervin. Yes, these aren't going to be flashy names at all, but he's getting everyday playing time, and he's got a little bit of pop in that bat. He's still hitting 309 on a small sample to start the year. But in that time, he's got 2 homers. Is this a guy we're interested in, or are we more interested in the guy Mason Williams, who we'll talk about in a
minute? Yeah, I guess Ervin, he's going to run a little bit when he plays, but the playing time, that's the thing is they've got kind of a weird little logjam there, for the Reds. They're going to keep playing Hamilton. Winker went down for the season, so that opened up a spot. But between Ervin and Williams, they traded for oh my gosh, I had his name written down. Why am I drawing a blank?
Tucker,
Preston Tucker. Yeah, Preston. No, they traded for Preston Tucker. He's there, yeah. Like you said, Sheller's coming back. If any one of these guys can get hot and run with the playing time, it's the playing time will be there. It'll be nice. Ervin would be the one that I'd like to see get it just for the steals upside. But as of now, I think you can kind of pass him over. I think even at 15 teams, there's better chances I'd rather take.
Okay. Pretty similar thoughts on Mason Williams, I'm assuming. They're kind of platooning with each other almost.
Yeah. Williams he's hit a couple bombs, I think, since he's been up. Former Yankees prospect. And again, if I knew he was going to play every day, he'd be interesting. But same thing with Preston Tucker, same thing with Ervin. I just think they're going to get in each other's way and not really provide a lot of consistent value down the stretch.
All right, let's talk about another steals target we could look at. He's been batting leadoff for the Baltimore Orioles since getting traded from the Brew Crew. We're talking Jonathan Villar, and he's actually played really well since getting traded to the to the Orioles. He's hit in 4 of his 5 games, 3 of the 5 multi-hit games. The funny part is Buck Showalter comes out and says he's got the green light, and he's only has 1 steal and 1 attempt, I believe. So what's your thoughts on Jonathan Villar?
Yeah, Buck Showalter's green light's a little different than everybody else's.
It's true. Very, very true.
Yeah, and somebody has watched this team a lot. It was since he's been the manager. There was that random Nate McLouth year that I think where he got the 30 steals, and then nobody else has really been allowed to run. Manny had the one season where he stole 20 bags, and I think that was more Manny just telling him like, "Hey, I'm going to do this because I want to try to fatten up my next contract." But anyway, VR might be just kind of it's a cross sport reference, but he might just be like, you see these guys in the NBA that put up a lot of good stats on bad teams. And even though in baseball it's a little bit different, but he's somebody that his big year with the Brewers was when they weren't good yet. So maybe he's just somebody that's just because he's a little erratic, he's a little over the place defensively. He can make some really wonderful plays defensively, and then he'll just do something really boneheaded. The next time a ball's hit his way, he might just be somebody that's best suited to play on a bad team, do whatever the heck he wants, kind of go with the flow. So he's somebody that because we've seen him get these hot stretches before in Milwaukee, a little bit with Houston, where he could be somebody that changes the course of your league for you because he can be a doubles machine. And if he's hitting leadoff, even though the Orioles lineup isn't very good, it's still a good hitter's park. It's still a good still a good division for parks. And Adam Jones is still there. He can still do some things. Trey Mancini's starting to heat up a little bit, so he could have some people behind him to knock him in. But VR is definitely somebody that could swing leagues down the stretch if he's going to continue to produce, and if the light's just green enough for him to run.
Yeah, I agree. If the light's green enough to run, he could put like double-digit steals up on the board for the rest of the way. A little bit of pop in that ballpark. It could be really, really interesting with VR the rest of the way. So go grab him if you can. It's probably one of the top guys I'd look at this week. I'm assuming he's still there, which deeper leagues, probably not. But go check him out. Let's talk about Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I know he's on the DL right now, but I wanted to just mention how hot he's been as he started taking ground balls today. So hopefully he'll be back here sometime maybe early next week. He hit in 16 of 17 games he played in July. Before he went on the DL, he had 11 straight games of multi-hit games. This guy was starting to live up to the hype. If Gurriel's available, are you running to go get him?
Not really. I think that might have just been a hot stretch that we saw before he got hurt. Steamer only has him projected for a 268 batting average the rest of the way. He had never really done even anything like that in the minors. His pop is kind of so. He doesn't really run a lot. So yeah, if he comes back and you see where he's going to start hitting a little bit, maybe you go scoop him. But he's not somebody, unless I'm super super desperate in middle infield, that I'm waiting to sit on to see when he comes back.
Okay. Let's talk about another youngster that might be getting the call. For most of the season, it was always, he's not coming up this year. He's not coming up this year. Well, now it looks like Eloy Jimenez might be coming up this year. So plans have changed in Chicago, and he's been hitting the snot out of the baseball everywhere he goes. What's your thoughts on Eloy for the last month and a half of the season?
Oh yeah, if he gets the call, I'm super excited. He's somebody that's a potential. None of the guys we've really talked about, really outside of VR or even the speed of somebody, like a Mondesi. This is the one true real league winner that we're probably going to potential league winner that we're talking about today. Like you mentioned, he's crushed it at every level of the minors that he's been in this season and previous to this season. The power potential is just off the charts. It's a good park to hit in. He'll hit right in the middle of that lineup. You think probably behind Abreu when he does come up. And one interesting, thing about him is Steamer has it projected for a 130 WRC plus when he does come up to play, which is kind of rare for Steamer to do that. But even if you want to go to another projection system like the BAT, still has him at 109, which is above league average. So the numbers are backing it up that this guy, when he comes up, assuming that he comes up around the 15th-ish or so, I think is the rumor that's out there right now of this month, he has the potential to be a league winner. If he's probably owned in the majority of leagues, but if by chance he's not, go out, grab him now. I would go so far as if you're truly desperate to just blow your fab on it before you have the chance, before he comes up and someone else has the chance to grab him, because he's somebody that if he gets 6 to 7 weeks of playing time is a game changer, and he could potentially win you your league.
No, I love it. That's what I was going to ask you. What would you do? Because I was thinking just whatever you have, but it's put it all on black.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, especially if you're somebody that's in the middle of the standings, it's going to take everything to break right for you anyway. You might as well just blow it. Just throw it all in there. Light it on fire, go $0 the rest of the way, and go grab him.
Yeah, because at worst he's going to get you homers, runs, and RBIs. If it's an OBP league, he might be pretty decent. Average isn't horrible. He's got production for you.
Yeah, and I think once the White Sox do make the decision to call him up, they're not going to toy with him. And if he goes, 2 for his first 20, they bench him or send him back down. I think once he gets called up, he should be here to stay, especially for the rest of the season. I mean, there's no reason to send him back down if he does struggle.
No, I agree, and that's the thing is I think that's why they've held off so long. Is at least some of these teams are smart enough. It's like I understand how us as fans want all of these guys up to see, but at the same time, let's talk Vlad Guerrero Jr. Yes, we want to see him, but they're holding out hope that Donaldson can come back, they can showcase him and trade him. That's what they have to do. And if they do that, then they have to sit Vladdy, and they don't want to sit him up here. That's the whole thing. It's if we're gonna start his clock, we're playing him every single day, and it's go time. So that's a very good point you made there. If Eloy gets the call, he should be in there at least 6 out of 7 days a week.
Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope so anyway. And the White Sox seem to, even though they're a little behind some of the other teams that started rebuilding around the time they did, they for the most part haven't been too crazy. They're not too far out there with doing ridiculous things with their prospects and all. So I trust them to, once he's up, to just keep him in the lineup every day.
Yeah, because they know where they're at in their rebuild, and they still have another year or so to go before it's there. So they're smart enough for that. On the same note, if we get Eloy, maybe we get lucky, get Vlad for a month. You never know. Maybe Victor Robles gets a spot. It's going to be a fun September around baseball when it comes to prospects.
Yeah, give us a reason when you're already watching a lot of these bad teams anyway, just because that's just part of what we do. But at least it'll give us something to look forward to. And it's like, oh, White Sox Blue Jays is on the schedule. I might actually watch more than 10 pitches of that.
I'd rather watch that than Red Sox Yankees.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, those at least the White Sox Blue Jays will take 3 hours and not 7 hours, like Red Sox Yankees seem to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Eventually, the wife says we got to do something. Let's talk about the trade that finally happened. It was supposed to happen. It didn't happen. Then it finally happened. Now it's waiver wires. But Mike Fiers comes to the Oakland A's. It made sense since the day the Tigers signed Mike Fiers that he was going to be dealt for anybody. They just wanted more depth in their farm system. So he gets dealt. He's been actually pretty decent this year for Mike Fiers' terms. He's like a good fourth starter in your rotation. And that's the one thing the A's need. As much as I like their team, as good as their team is, they need starting pitching depth for whatever, just someone that can breathe and throw 5 innings because that bullpen's nasty. What's your thoughts on Mike Fiers, and is he fantasy relevant as he makes his debut tonight against the Dodgers?
Yeah, he's somebody that, with Detroit, his strikeouts were down, but the walks were also down compared to the previous seasons in his career. He's always been somebody that can pile up the strikeouts, but if he wasn't on, he could light your ratios up pretty quick. And that's changed this year. Again, the walks are down. And with the A's, I'm kind of intrigued by Fiers going there because, when I saw that they were going to start Edwin Jackson, they were going to start Brett Anderson. I was kind of laughing to myself a little bit. I'm like, really, you guys couldn't have found anything better than this. Yeah. But maybe they've got something figured out. They've got a really good defense behind them. Everybody knows how good Matt Chapman is handling third defensively. So he might do some of this. That's pretty interesting down the stretch. The ballpark. Comerica's a nice pitcher's park as it is, but he goes to Oakland, which is again one of the better pitcher's parks in the league. So he could definitely have some fantasy relevance, especially as a streamer and anything that's going on, or anytime he has a 2-star week.
Yeah, I agree. The streaming's possible. He's going to, have some interesting games in division. He actually has an offense behind him, unlike in Detroit, that can help him if he gives up a few runs. I think it's really interesting. And just for fun now, you mentioned Edwin Jackson. Would you rather stream Fiers or Jackson? Because Jackson's actually been good so far.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is when I said that when they signed him, I was laughing, but he's been.
Oh, we all were.
I've been waiting for it, and I saw, I see him get scooped up in a couple of deep leagues, and I'm like, man, I haven't seen that guy's team, but he must be really desperate. He's going for Edwin Jackson, and it's like it's working. It hasn't blown up yet, and Oakland's got something figured out there, and Brett Anderson's the other one. I mean, he's been on and off the DL. 4 or 5 times like he usually does, but he's at least been okay when he's been in there. I mean, they've got Trevor Cahill looking like Cahill was supposed to look like when he was, 24, 25 years old, which has been nice to see. So maybe they've got something going on out there in Oakland. Maybe this is just their year and Fiers can provide us some value down the stretch. But I'd probably, back to your question, I'll choose Fiers just because Fiers has at least been useful in the recent, in the past couple of years where Jackson's just been, when he has pitched, it's pretty much been a dumpster fire. So, I'd feel better about myself if I picked up Fiers. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just can't see Edwin Jackson's name on my roster. It just terrifies me.
Yeah,
as bad as my roster might be, it can be terrifying.
Yeah.
Let's just mention real quick. I want to talk about Robinson Cano. He's doing his rehab assignment, coming back for. It's weird calling it rehab assignment because it's not really rehabbing anything except his ego. He got busted for steroids, obviously, but he's in Tacoma with the Rainiers, and they haven't played first base. They're going to play third base, and I believe second base. They're going to rotate around the diamond. But the ideal situation is since they traded for Cameron Maben in center, D. Gordon's at second. They're going to have Cano kind of platoon at first with Ryan Healy. What's your thoughts on Cano coming back? Because some people might have gotten lazy and dropped him because they were desperate and dropped him. But it doesn't even sound like he's got regular everyday at bats, which is really strange.
Yeah, the good thing is if you've held on to him this long, they're at least going to play him. Because I know there was at least maybe the halfway through his suspension, it was like, oh, are they even going to play him, when he gets back? But it's pretty obvious that they are going to throw him out there in some capacity. It just kind of hurts everybody all around, really, outside of Haniger and Cruz and Segura. Those are the only guys that are probably going to be locked into at bats. You could see Gordon sitting a game here and there, like you said, because they added Maben. I think the one that hurts the most is Ryan Healy, because it makes sense if Cano's going to play first, it just makes sense to platoon the two of them. Have Cano or have Cano out, sitting out against lefties, or if they want to give Seager, a day off against a really tough lefty. Cano's usually been better against lefties in his career than Seager has, so maybe Healy goes over to third, but Healy's not exactly lighting the world on fire defensively at third base. So it's going to be a juggling act down the stretch. And I think the only thing it's really going to do is just take plate appearances away from all the guys involved, really, outside of, like I said, Haniger, Seager, and Cruz. But again, even Cruz, if he's dinged up, they have more options now to give him a break. So it could just, hurt all the Mariners hitters going forward.
Yeah, I guess bright side, they have depth now. That's one thing we can look at. But
and the thing is, they're gonna want to keep putting Cano, out there, because they are still trying to make the playoffs, even though they're not going to have him. He is one of their better hitters, even if they won't have him for the playoffs. So it's going to be a sticky situation.
Definitely. Let's talk Ryan Zimmerman. It's a name when people hear it, they're like, oh no, not again. But he had that great year last year. This year he's showing that injury-riddled Ryan Zimmerman we've grown to love. But since he's come back, he's not lighting the world on fire, but, he's got hits in 6 of his last 8, with 4 of those being double-digit games. He's showing a little bit of pop. He's not playing every day, though, which kind of concerns you. But say they start playing him regularly, or at least in a daily-type league, is this a guy that we could get back on board with?
Yeah, I guess if you're super desperate. I mean, he's out there in more than half of CBS leagues. CBS, they usually have some cater to deeper leagues over there. So I thought that was a good gauge that he is still out there in a lot of leagues. Like you said, I think daily lineup leagues is really the only way that you can know for sure that you're going to maximize the value out of him, because they've got Adams. Reynolds is still hanging out there. So I'm not very excited. It's not somebody, unless I'm super, super desperate, I'm not going out and grabbing him.
Okay, yeah, no, he's just kind of one of those, I guess, maybe dailies at best, but other than that, it's kind of tough. Let's talk about a name that kind of has my attention, and it's probably only because I play daily that I caught on to him, but David Bote of the Chicago Cubs. He's been playing a ton of third base with Chris Bryant out, and even reports came out yesterday, Chris Bryant still can't take batting practice. He's way more messed up than people let on to, which makes so much more sense now to why his numbers are where they're at this season.
Yeah, exactly.
But talking David Bote, it's like it's not consistent, but overall he's played really well, hitting 344, little bit of power, little bit of speed. He's got 3 stolen bases. What depth of a league do you need to pick David Bote up?
I think he'd be a 15-team ad. I did notice that depending on which site you play on, he does have second and or short, depending on what the site is. So maybe that puts him on a 12-team radar if you've got somebody that's eligible at middle and corner down the stretch. But he, throughout the minors, he showed pretty good pop, had decent plate discipline. So in that lineup, if he's going to be playing the majority of the time at third base, he's definitely interesting. And if you play on one of the sites where he's got, second and or short, it's definitely somebody I would scoop up. He's somebody that I own Brian in a couple of leagues, and when he was going through his day-to-day stretch, I'd be checking the lineup, scrolling through Twitter, refreshing. Is he in the lineup today? Is he in the lineup today? And I'd see this Bote pop up, and I'm just be like, oh, get that out of here. I want Bryant. So that's how I knew he was in there, because I kept waiting for Bryant to come back, and after about the third day in a row seeing him, I was like, oh, he's probably going back on the disabled list.
Yep, it started coming, and like when those reports came out the other day about him still not taking batting practice, like, this is real, folks. This might be pretty bad.
That could get real ugly.
Yeah. Let's talk Steven Souza Jr. Obviously, we kind of hinted at him earlier this year talking about Mallex Smith. Got dealt to the D-backs before the season. Started out okay, nothing special. Went on the DL for a while. He's back, and he's starting to look like Steven Souza Jr. again. He's getting on base almost on the daily right now, showing a little bit of power. I'm liking what I've seen the last, let's say, 10 to 14 days. What's your thoughts on Steven Souza?
Yeah, it was looking like it might have been a lost season for him, but he has started to heat up a little bit lately. The problem is I don't just see where the consistent playing time is going to come from out there. They've traded for John Jay. David Peralta has been good all season, but he's been on fire over the last couple of days. He's got a few more hits and some RBIs today against the Phillies. And I just don't see where the consistent playing time is going to come from. He'll get in there against lefties and they'll bench John Jay, but unless an injury happens to AJ Pollock, which, I mean, it's AJ Pollock, so it definitely could. But as of now, he's kind of going to be kind of low on my list of guys that I'd be looking to stash or even to keep an eye on. Because again, like I said, unless Pollock goes down or Peralta goes down, it doesn't look like the everyday playing time is going to be there. And then Jared Dyson is still hanging out there, pinch running and sitting on the end of the bench doing Jared Dyson things. So that would still. That would still interfere with Souza, if somebody else were to go down. I think when it's all said and done, his, 30 homers, 16 steal season that we saw last year is probably end up being a career best for Souza.
That sucks, but Jared Dyson doing Jared Dyson things. That is a phenomenal quote right there. Let's talk David Dahl. Now, this is a guy, if you've watched prospects, this is a guy we've been waiting for. Every time the Rockies bring an outfielder back, we wonder why. You have Dahl, you have Tapia, all these things. He got called back up. Now he's healthy. He's been up for 3 games. He started the last 2. He's got hits in both games. He's already got a steal since his return. We know the guy can rake. It's just a matter of staying healthy. The fact that they had him and Blackman in the order together yesterday showed me a lot. Looks like they might be really trying to keep him out there. What's your thoughts on David Dahl? Because if he's an everyday guy, he's got to be intriguing in Coors.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I saw they recalled him, I was just like, oh, here we go again. And then it was Monday this week. He led off, and it's like, oh, but Blackman's on the line out there, just giving him a day off. Well, then yesterday, like you said, he's back in the lineup, and now he's in the lineup again today. And just before you and I hopped on air, he hit a 2-run bomb. So he's nice. The hype train is about to start going full steam.
Damn,
and
we missed it. Missed it.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I mean, and that's the thing about Dahl. As soon as that hype train, as soon as it gets up into it gets into like 5th gear, he's gonna disappoint us. The Rockies will do something stupid or he'll get hurt. But for now, it looks like he's finally taken that spot from Parra, which kind of should have been all along as long as he was healthy. Especially the Rockies are 2.5 back of the second wild card right now. They have no veterans, young guys. They can throw all that crap out the window and just play their best players. So this could maybe finally be it for David Dahl. We can finally, as fantasy owners, get to reap all the potential he has.
Yeah, I can't wait because I have him, I think, in every stinking fantasy league I own. Because I've been like the ability is there. It's like you see it all the time. It's just make it happen. Like when they signed Cargo this offseason, I could have put up my fist through a wall. I was like, what are you doing? But it's just so frustrating. So yeah, I'd say grab him anywhere you can right now because no one probably owned him. This was kind of a surprise thing. It wasn't really rumored that we're calling up David Dahl, and you're probably exactly what you said, especially the first game when he pinch hit. It's like, okay, here we go again. But now 3 straight starts. He goes deep, like you said today as we record on Wednesday. By the time Fab comes around Sunday, as long as he doesn't get hurt, we've seen this happen a lot with David Dahl. He might be one of the hottest commodities out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you hit it. I mean, the ability, playing in Coors, still good lineup. Just needs to stay healthy. Hopefully, he's not one of these guys where the idea of David Dahl is better than the actual reality of David Dahl. But hopefully we're getting to where that dream becomes a reality for all of us.
Yeah. Would you rather have, assuming both get everyday playing time, Nick Williams or David Dahl?
With we're looking at 8-ish weeks left in the season.
Yeah,
Dahl's got the potential to be a difference maker in your league. Where as much as I like Williams and as good as he's been, I don't see where he's gonna really just have that. Williams doesn't have the 10 homer, 10 steal potential down the road. And again, Dahl would have to have everything break right for him to get that anyway. But at least that's in the range of outcomes, so to speak. So I would go for Dahl if I'm trying to just swing for the fences, win the league. I'm going for Dahl. Man, now maybe if I'm in first and I've got a decent sized lead, I want Williams to get the stability and to just kind of keep the counting stats going. So kind of, depending on your team scenario. But in most cases, it would probably be Dahl.
Well said. Let's have another scenario here. You can take 2 out of these 3: Nick Williams, Johnny VR, David Dahl. You can take 2 out of those 3, or you spend all your money on Eloy Jimenez. Which one do you want?
Oh, that's a good one. I kind of just want to spend all my money on Eloy just to say I did it.
Yeah.
But
just to watch your roster every day.
yeah, just for like, oh god, this guy's got to get called up.
To see all these guys that have Juan Soto and what they get to enjoy. Now you can do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's another. Sidetrack. I put half of my budget on when Soto was called up. I put more than half of what I had at the time, and was still outbid by $100 in my TJ.
That was crazy.
That was a dagger right there. But I'll go the safe route and in that scenario, I would probably go VR and Dahl, even though part of me would just be like, man, let's just blow it on Eloy. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to bring it up to people, because we both agree if you're going to blow your load, blow it on Eloy. But if you kind of want to get a couple pieces, you get some steals, some power. Again, David Dahl, let's see how the rest of the week plays out. But if he is an everyday guy, I think this is as close as a really nice thing as we're going to find the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk Lance Lynn, Mr. Lance Lynn. He's been a tilting one all year, and the Yankees trade for him. He comes in for Sonny Gray, pitches really well out of the pen, and then he comes in against the White Sox and pitches really well. Now, let me preface, no offense to your Orioles. He faced the Orioles and he faced the White Sox. So I'm saying take this with a grain of salt. I've already heard a lot of people running with this like he's the savior. What's your thoughts on Lance Lynn in the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because he did, before the trade, start to heat up a little bit. His curveball usage has kind of ticked up, and I think that's where we've seen the strikeout boost and the performance boost. And, being with the Yankees, you're going to get the run support. Obviously not the greatest home park or the greatest division to pitch in, but you don't need him to go deep in the games, because they have, the greatest bullpen that money can buy, and they just need him to go 5. Maybe if he gets into the 6th, great. If not, they're going to get him out of there. And I think he's definitely worth a stash. Like I said, he was starting to turn things around, with Minnesota before the trade. And he's somebody that maybe we're kind of sort of seeing this, speaking of the Orioles with Alex Cobb, his last 2 starts haven't been a dumpster fire like the previous 20. So these guys that got into camp late, maybe it takes them a while. They get at it. They're so used to that routine of reporting at the end of February, and if they're not reporting till the middle of March, I mean, it's obviously affected Lynn. I think it affected Arrieta to a certain extent at the beginning of the season, and Cobb obviously has been awful. So Lynn's somebody that I would definitely grab if I need some pitching. The win potential is definitely going to be there, if nothing else.
I'm assuming you'd rather have Lynn than Cobb, though.
Yeah. I mean, Cobb's like I think Cobb is. I don't keep track of win-loss records for pitchers very much, but when it's something that's ridiculous, I notice this. And again, being an Orioles fan, I see that a lot more regularly. I think he is 2-13. I think on the season. So he might be
something crazy like that. Yes.
Yeah, he'll be lucky to get 2 more wins the rest of the season. But hey, as far as they just need him to at least be a serviceable pitcher, so that contract isn't just completely awful, in 2 more years. It's already looks bad enough, but if he can just get back to, like a 3.75 ERA for the next couple seasons, maybe they get something for him in a trade. But just don't be the worst pitcher in the league like he looked the first half of the season.
Let's talk Jeff McNeil of the New York Mets. A pretty big prospect, was playing really well in the minors, got the call, kind of wasn't getting playing time, but the first couple of days when the rumbling was starting, he's been getting it every day pretty much since then. In the last few days, he played really well with the home run along the way. What's your thoughts on Jeff McNeil? I'm pretty sure he's second base only in most leagues.
Yeah, I think he is as well. The Asdrubal trade really opened up things for him. Yeah, he's somebody whose minor league career was not so much a roller coaster, but it looks like he almost kind of changed up his profile a little bit. He ran a lot, when he first started his professional career, and has stopped running as he went along in the minors and started hitting for more power. But that just kind of tells you that the speed is there, the power combination is there. So he's somebody in 15 team it maybe has already been scooped up, but should definitely be added, especially if you need somebody to help out in the middle. And Mets are going to Met. Maybe they sign. I don't know. I don't know who with second base off the top of my head that they might bring out of retirement, kind of like like they've done with Austin Jackson and Jose Bautista this year, and just play veterans for no reason. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case for them. He should get playing time the rest of the year. and that'll be a nice boost, especially in 15 teams. And only I'm sure he was probably grabbed, the second he was called up, but he could be interesting down the stretch.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be very interesting. Not one of the flashier guys, but you probably still get him pretty cheap at the moment, and only, especially like you said, but could be very, very interesting. One last guy we have down here, and coming into the year, people might have drafted him thinking he's kind of that safe guy, 15 and 13, mid 3 to 3.75 type ERA guy. He's been a mess, except Tanner Roark's finally turned it around. 3 really good starts in a row. Is this the signs of things to come? Like you can trust him for the stretch run, or are you terrified old Tanner's coming back?
Yeah, I've even when he's been good, I've never been a big believer in Tanner Roark. He just doesn't get the strikeouts, pitches to too much contact, and his hits, not even like his control is amazing because the walks can get out of hand at times, and that's when he starts to really get in trouble. There was a start in there against the Mets. There's a start in there against the Reds. If he's got a couple more of them on the schedule, obviously, be in the division with the Marlins, he could definitely be an option. I'm not going to say he's not an option, but that's nothing I'm excited about at all. And, that's the thing. If you're in like a 15 team or even anything even deeper than that, and it's where he has to be rostered, you wouldn't have started him in that start against Milwaukee, and that was going to be his best start. Hell, that's probably his best start in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So, he's been kind of erratic. He's been beat up by Miami even this year. So, I'm not interested unless I absolutely have to be, or the matchup is just perfect.
Okay. Are there any other kind of players that have stood out to you lately before we wrap it up to kind of have your attention, or?
We touched. Like I said, we've touched on a bunch of them here. I mentioned earlier, David Peralta has been really hot over the last little bit. He had a little bit of an injury scare. So it looks like he's starting to turn things around. Just as we're recording, it looks like Jaime Barria is having another pretty decent start. I know he's got Detroit today, and then at San Diego is the first of which should be a 2-start week for him. So that's somebody that could be scooped up in Fab this weekend because he's pretty widely available. Just somebody else that stood out. Anybody that listens to our show on FWFB. Zach Wheeler, somebody that I started touting, right as the breakout was about to happen. You could kind of see it. It was starting to take shape, and he's been great, and he's got a couple of really good starts on the docket as well coming for him. I know he's got a Marlins start coming up soon, so he's somebody that I wouldn't necessarily. He's not available obviously in any league of any depth, but I would, if you have him, I wouldn't be worried. I think this ride's going to continue. That was pretty much it. We touched on a lot of the guys that have been kind of catching my eye here lately.
All right. Yeah, no, I like that Barria call. I've been streaming him off and on throughout the year. He's not going to light the world on fire, but for most of the time, he's pretty quality starty, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you look there, and then I love Wheeler. I grabbed him a few weeks ago, like everywhere I possibly could. I was probably a week or two after you guys were talking about him, but I jumped on because when I started seeing, I'm like, okay, this looks like the guy people were talking about, and looks really, really good. Finally, yes.
Yeah. Finally happened. I got one for you. Something that just came up. What do you make of the Marlins closer situation? I know that was a little off the cuff there, but
no, I thought about it.
Barraclaw's out. Yeah, it looks like Barraclaw's out.
It's a mess. They said Barraclaw's out because he struggled so much, and it's funny because they were trying to keep him in there so they could probably deal him, and now it's gonna be hard to deal him. So they're gonna put Donnie Baseball says he's going back to get healthier and get his mind right, and so they're gonna go by committee. And what are the Marlins going to win? Like 10, 15 games the rest of the way, maybe. B, it's with Donnie Baseball. He's not Dave Roberts by any means. You don't know what he's going to do. But it could be really, really interesting there. I can't even think of what his name is right now. There's a couple they might kind of switch back in there, but it's not going to be pretty. I'd rather go.
Guerrero was the other one. I think that was his name was brought up as second rider. That might be, and Guerrero's interesting because he can get some. He can get some whiffs. Second rider can as well. But I agree. I mean, if you're desperate for saves, throw a couple bucks at him this weekend. But I wouldn't go crazy. Yeah, you go get a couple. The one that surprised me still is Jose Leclerc, who after Diekman was traded, we knew he was going to be the guy in Texas, and he's still only like 25 to 30% owned everywhere. It almost made me wonder what the heck is no one wants saves anymore. Like when I was reading something earlier this morning, it was 25%, and I'm like, that does not. Maybe he's somebody. He could have been somebody that because there was so much movement there, right before the deadline and on the deadline, that maybe he just slid through the cracks and in a couple of leagues. I mean, yeah, he's somebody that the skills look really good. If he's out there, definitely go grab him. Almost even if you don't need saves, just keep him off of somebody that does need the saves. Where those, if you're in a roto league, if those points can swing for him, put him ahead of you getting the saves. So I would grab him just to keep him off other people's teams.
And there is a huge take-home message for a lot of the guys we've talked about. Steals, stuff like that. Just keep them off someone else's team. Like, if you can get them cheap, keep them out of someone else's hands. It goes a long way.
Watch the standings, not only of your own team, obviously, but who the guys that you're either chasing or that are chasing you or tied with or whatever. See if you can try to screw them over in another category. That's part of the game.
That is definitely part of the game. So, really good stuff, Randy. I'll let you plug what you got going on, and maybe what you got coming up.
Yeah, I do a weekly article for Friends with Fantasy Benefits. It's called Streams and Nightmares, to break down every 2-start pitcher for that week, and then I usually do anywhere from 4 to 6 streaming options for the week that I recommend. I've been doing that pretty much every week all year. All-Star break kind of threw a wrinkle into things, but back to doing it every week now. It's been a lot of fun. And again, I podcast once a week over there with Mike the Rotocop and Colin Weatherwax. So check that out. And you can follow me on Twitter at RTH222.
Awesome, man. Yeah, guys, go check it out. The Friends of Fantasy Benefit guys, we're friends with many of them. Mason's been on the show, and the rest of them. They're all really good dudes, and keeps growing like crazy over there. And I guess someone's got to do the work while Mason slacks off somewhere else. So it works off pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think that guy works. I don't think that guy works at all. Actually, now that you mention it.
No, he doesn't. All I hear is he's moving and he's doing this. He's on vacation right now. I think it's crazy. How can he take a vacation? But yeah, but yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. Everybody, go check him out. Go check out Friends of Fantasy Benefits. And this was Bench with Bubba, episode 113. Catch you guys next time.